Today we're going to talk about the immigration disaster that's currently sweeping the UK. Write your opinion about the current situation in the comments. Last year, more than 97,000 individuals sought asylum in the UK, including 31,000 who arrived via the increasing number of small boats crossing the channel. Alarmingly, 58% of these asylum seekers were granted protection, a decline from the previous year, when 71% were successful. Yvette Cooper's proposal to deport over 14,000 individuals in the next 6 months would, even if sustained for a full year, be grossly inadequate in addressing the backlog of failed asylum claims from the previous year. This plan would only exacerbate the backlog of failed asylum seekers, creating ongoing chaos and financial burdens that British taxpayers will have to shoulder. This backlog doesn't even account for illegal immigrants who entered in earlier years, or the foreign prisoners in British jails who are eligible for deportation. Nor does it include the numerous failed asylum seekers who were not deported in previous years, or the estimated 1.2 million illegal migrants already residing in Britain. If Yvette Cooper attempted to deport these 1.2 million illegal immigrants at a rate of 14,000 every 6 months, it would take nearly 83 years to complete the task. This response is woefully inadequate for the magnitude of the crisis. But the situation is even more dire. After scrapping the Rwanda scheme upon taking office, Labour is now permitting around 90,000 illegal immigrants to enter the asylum system, with approximately 60,000 likely to be granted asylum. This means that regardless of any deportations, the majority of illegal immigrants will remain in Britain, providing a powerful incentive for others to embark on the journey. When the odds of gaining asylum, and thus access to the welfare state, subsidized housing, and the job market are over 50%, it's no wonder many would be tempted to try. Labour advocates often claim that the high rate of asylum grants indicates that those seeking asylum are genuine refugees. However, the harsh reality is that human rights laws are fundamentally flawed. Many asylum seekers are granted protection simply because they come from countries deemed too dangerous to return to, such as Afghanistan, Syria, and Iran. Astonishingly, 96% of Afghans, 99% of Syrians, and 82% of Iranians are granted asylum. In other words, once someone reaches Britain, whether legally or illegally, there is a very high probability they will be allowed to stay. Nothing Yvette Cooper is currently proposing will alter this, and nothing the Labour government is doing will address it. This crisis will only escalate, and the British public deserves transparency about the situation. Keir Starmer, who has vowed never to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights, will not challenge the broken human rights laws fueling this crisis. As a result, Britain will continue its decline, with more citizens feeling increasingly frustrated and disillusioned. This situation has already led to deeply disturbing cases like that of DH, an Afghan whose identity was concealed by the courts. He was jailed for 12 weeks for sexual harassment, yet was still granted asylum because lawyers argued that his behavior would put him in danger in Afghanistan. Or consider Abdul Azidi, the Clapham acid attacker, who was refused asylum twice but was never deported, even after committing serious crimes. On his third attempt, he was granted asylum after claiming to have converted to Christianity, despite significant doubts about his sincerity. Nothing Yvette Cooper is proposing will address these glaring issues. The Labour government should be candid with the British public, admitting that tens of thousands of people will continue to enter Britain illegally each year, some of whom will exploit the legal system, be supported by British taxpayers, and even commit violent crimes against British citizens. Keir Starmer, despite his professed commitment to combating violence against women and girls, appears willing to accept tens of thousands of illegal immigrants from countries where women face extreme restrictions on their basic freedoms. Human rights lawyers often prioritize the safety of foreign criminals over the safety of British citizens. This situation leaves British people without the fundamental right to live safely in their own country, free from the threat posed by foreign criminals. To resolve this, one option would be to reform human rights laws, but Labour is unlikely to do so. Another would be to implement a deterrent, but Labour has dismantled the Rwanda scheme. The final option is to prevent the boats from leaving France in the first place, but the UK does not control France's borders. French authorities, understandably, are more focused on their own challenges. Without honesty and decisive action from the Labour government, Britain is on course for more protests, unrest, division, and an increasing number of citizens feeling unsafe in their own country. Last week, Yvette Cooper unveiled her plans to tackle the escalating levels of illegal immigration into Britain, promising that this time, things would be different. However, the harsh reality is that the plan is a deeply flawed disaster. She has promised to deport more individuals in the next 6 months than at any time since 2018, but this claim has already proven false. She also announced the creation of 290 additional places at 2 detention centers, yet the overall capacity is still around 1,000 fewer spaces than before. Additionally, 100 National Crime Agency staff are to be recruited to combat gangs, but experts assert this will not be nearly sufficient. While some individuals may be deported, Yvette Cooper's plan fails to acknowledge that migrants from safe countries represent only a small fraction of those entering Britain illegally. Without addressing the broader issues, this crisis will persist unchecked.